let's jump straight into it. We are looking at an endgame with even material. Both sides have a rook and a bishop, and both sides also have 2 pawns. At first sight, one would assume that this ending should be a draw. Yes, the bishop on c4 is hanging, but black will answer that move with a check, hitting both the king and the bishop. And I think a lot of players would just stop here and assume this is a draw. If we go back to the starting position, there is really nothing better than to take here. If the bishop is not captured, it will save itself on the next move. This is still a threat, so if we try to just stop that check, this bishop will move. It can go to b3. It can go to other squares. Everything here should be a draw. So let's go back to the line we were just looking at, starting with rook takes bishop. Now rook g5 is the only response. Otherwise, black will be a piece down. And in this position here, it turns out the position is not simply a draw, but we have to find an only move. And that only move is king e6. King e6, the idea is not just that we are trying to get closer to the enemy king, but we will understand the idea on the next move. Of course, black has to capture again, otherwise they are down a piece. And here comes the stunner, the nail in black's coffin. A quiet pawn move to h4. And if we look at the position here, it's hard to believe, considering the material that remains on the board. But black is simply in Zugzwang. The pawns cannot advance, so the only 2 pieces that can move are the king and the rook. The problem is the king only has 1 square, and that square is e8. If the king moves to e8, it runs into rook c8 checkmate. And that means that the only piece which can move without getting checkmated is the rook on h5. But if we look at the rook on h5, by going to e6 with our king, crucially, we are covering the square on d5. And now, well, if we look at the squares along the 5th rank, all of them are under our control. The pawns cover b5 and g5. The king covers these 3 central squares, and the rook covers c5. So black has no safe move to make here. The rook will be lost. Of course, there is no hope in this endgame here after the rook gives itself up, and there was nothing that black could do here. So once again, that's why it was so important to go to e6.
Please do subscribe.